Hello, everyone. Back again, and I was going to read to you another fable. I like doing the teaching stories, and along with jokes and things like that. But the teaching stories to me seem like something that it's good for people, and sometimes just to make you think or whatever. And the one I'm reading today is a Christian Andersen story, and it's called "The Emperor's New Clothes." And this story is an old story written in probably the early 1800s, but it's very timely today. Goes into the idea that sometimes we're afraid to speak up about something that is plain before our eyes, but the status quo is maybe causing people to be afraid to say what they actually know or really feel. And anyway, I'm going to read the story, and I think you can maybe draw some analogies to what's going on. But anyway, just in the world today. But if you would, before I start, if you would please like and subscribe. It really helps me, and it helps me to continue. So anyway, here's the story. Many years ago, there was an emperor who was so excessively fond of new clothes that he spent all his money in dress, and he did not trouble himself in the least about his soldiers, nor did he care to go either to the theater or out to see shows, except for the opportunities then afforded him for displaying his new clothes. He had a different suit for each hour of the day, and as of any king or emperor, one is often accustomed to say, "Oh, he is sitting in council," while it was always said of him, "The emperor is sitting in his wardrobe." Time passed merrily in the large town that was his capital, and strangers arrived every day at the court, often trying to sell something or just get an audience with the king, the emperor. One day, two rogues, two thieves, conmen, calling themselves weavers, made their appearance. They gave out what they knew of weaving stuff, and they talked about the beautiful colors and elaborate patterns that they could weave and put together. And they were saying that the clothes manufactured by them would have a wonderful property of remaining invisible to anyone who was unfit for the office he held, or who was extraordinarily simple in his character. "Why, these must be indeed splendid clothes," thought the emperor. "Had I such a suit, I might at once find out what men in my realm are unfit for their office, and also be able to distinguish the wise from the very foolish. This stuff must be woven for me immediately," he said, and he caused large sums of money to be given to both of the weavers in order that they might begin their work. And of course the two men were delighted because, again, they were conmen. So the two pretended weavers set up two looms, and they pretended to work very busily every day, though in reality they did nothing at all. They asked for the most delicate silks and the purest gold threads, and they put both into their own knapsacks to keep. And then they continued to pretend to work at the empty loom until late at night. "I should like to know how the weavers are getting on with my cloth," said the emperor to himself, and some time had elapsed. He was, however, rather embarrassed when he remembered that a simpleton or one unfit for his office might be unable to see the manufacture. To be sure, he thought to himself that he had nothing to risk in his own person, but yet he would prefer sending somebody else anyway to bring him intelligence about the weavers and their work before he troubled himself into the affair. All the people throughout the city had heard of the wonderful property of this cloth, and whoever possessed it, that it would be invisible to anyone that was a simpleton. All were anxious to learn how wise or how ignorant each of their neighbors were, or might prove to be. I will send my minister My old minister to the weavers, said the emperor at last, after some deliberation. He will be best able to see how that cloth looks, for he is a man of great sense, and no one can be more suitable for his office than he is. And so the old minister went into the hall, where the knaves were working with all their might, or rather not working, at their empty looms. What can be the meaning of this, thought the old man, opening his eyes very wide. I cannot see the very least bit of thread on the looms. However, he did not express his thoughts out loud for fear of being looked at as a simpleton. The impostors requested him very courteously to be so good as to come nearer to their loom, and then they asked him whether the design pleased him and whether the colors were not very beautiful. And at the same time, pointing to the empty frames, the old minister looked and looked, and he could not see a thing on the looms, and for very good reason, because there was nothing there. What, he thought again, is it possible that I am a fool, a simpleton? I have never thought so about myself, and no one must know it now if I am so. Can it be that I am unfit for my office, which I have always held? No, that must not be said either. I will never confess that I could not see this stuff. Well, yes, Sir Minister, said one of the knaves, still pretending to work. So you did not say whether that stuff pleases you? Oh, it is excellent, replied the minister, looking at the loom with his spectacles. This pattern and the colors, yes, I will tell the emperor without delay how very beautiful I think them. We shall be very much obliged to you, said the impostors, and then they named the different colors and described the pattern of the pretended stuff. The old minister listened attentively to their words in order that he might repeat it to the emperor. And then the knaves asked for more silk and for more gold, saying that it was necessary to complete what they had already begun. However, of course, they put it all back into their knapsacks and continued to work, or appear to work, as diligent as they had before at their looms. The emperor now sent another officer of his court to see how the men were getting on and to ascertain whether the cloth would soon be ready. And just as the same with the older gentleman, he surveyed the loom on all sides but could see nothing at all but empty frames. Does not the stuff appear as beautiful to you as it did to the Lord Minister? Asked the impostor, smiling, at the same time making gestures as before and talking of the design and the colors, which were not even there. I certainly am not stupid, thought the messenger. It must be that I am not fit for my profitable office. This is very odd, however. No one has ever told me so, and I know nothing about it. Accordingly, he praised the stuff he could not see and declared that he was delighted with both the colors and the patterns. Indeed, please, your imperial majesty, said he to his sovereign when he returned, the cloth which the weavers are preparing is extraordinarily magnificent. The whole of the city was now talking of the splendid cloth which the emperor had ordered to be woven at his own expense. And now the emperor himself wished to see the costly manufacture, which was still on the loom. Accompanied by a select number of officers of the court, among whom were to be the most honest men who had already admired the cloth, he went to the crafty impostors who, as soon as they were aware of the emperor's approach, went on working or pretending to work more diligently than ever, though of course they had not passed a single thread through the looms. Is this not the work of something absolutely magnificent? Said the two officers of the crown already mentioned. If your majesty will only be pleased to look at it, what a splendid design, what glorious colors. And at the same time they pointed to the empty frames, for they imagined that everyone else could see the exquisite piece of workmanship that they could not. How is this? Said the emperor to himself. I see nothing. This is indeed a terrible affair. Am I a simpleton? Am I unfit to be the emperor? This could be the worst thing that could ever happen. Oh, he said, the cloth is charming. It is my complete surprise and pleasure. He smiled most graciously and looked closely at the empty looms, for on no account would he even think to say that he could not see what the two officers of his court had praised so much already. All his retinue now strained their eyes, hoping to see something and discover whatever was on the looms, but they also could see no more than the others. And nevertheless, they all exclaimed, "Oh, how beautiful!" and advised His Majesty to have some new clothes made from this splendid material for the approaching procession. Magnificent, charming, excellent. The Emperor shared in the general satisfaction and presented the impostors with the reband of an order of the knighthood to be worn in their buttonholes and the title of gentlemen weavers. The rogues sat up the whole of the night before the day on which the procession was to take place, and had 16 lights burning, so that everyone might see how anxious they were to finish the Emperor's new suit. They pretended to roll the cloth off the looms, cut the air with scissors, and sewed with needles without any thread in them. "See," cried they at last, "the Emperor's new clothes are now ready." And now, of course, the Emperor, with the grandees of the court, came to the weavers, and the rogues raised their arms as if in great virtue of this delicate cloth. "Yes, indeed," said all the courtiers, although none of them could see a thing of this exquisite manufacture. "If your Imperial Majesty will be graciously pleased, take off your clothes and we will fit you with the new suit," in front of the looking-glass. The Emperor was accordingly undressed, and the rogues pretended to array him out in his new suit. The Emperor turned round and round from side to side before looking through the glass. "How splendid His Majesty looks in his new clothes. And oh, look how well they fit," everyone cried. "What a design! What colors! These are indeed royal robes." "The canopy which was to be borne over your Majesty in the procession is now waiting," announced the chief master of ceremonies. "Well, I am quite ready," answered the Emperor. "Do my new clothes fit well?" asked he, turning himself round before the looking-glass in order that he might appear to be examining his handsome suit. The lords of the bedchamber were to carry His Majesty's train, and they felt about on the ground as if they were lifting up the ends of his mantle and pretending to be carrying something, for they would by no means betray anything like the simplicity they felt or the unfitness of their office. And so the Emperor walked under his high canopy in the midst of the procession, through the streets of his capital, and all the people standing by and looking out the windows all cried out, "Oh, how beautiful are our Emperor's new clothes! What a magnificent train there is to the mantle, and oh, how graceful the scarf hangs!" In short, no one would allow that he could not see these much admired clothes, because in doing so, he would have declared himself either a simpleton or unfit for his office. Certainly none of the Emperor's various suits had ever made so great an impression as these invisible ones. "But look, the Emperor has nothing on at all," cried a little child. "He's naked." "Listen to the voice of innocence," exclaimed his father, and what the child had said was whispered from one to another. "But he has nothing on at all," at last cried out all the people. "He's naked." The Emperor was vexed, for he knew that the people were not right, but he thought the procession must go on, and the lords of the bedchamber took greater pains than ever to appear to be holding up a train, although in reality there was no train to hold. And so that's the story. And only a child had the had the guts, you might say balls, to speak up and say, "This man is naked and he's not wearing a thing." But everybody else kept up the pretense. And this does happen, and it happens more often than we would like to see, but I definitely see it happening sometimes. And everyone's afraid to speak up and say, "No, that's not right. That's the Emperor has no clothes." But anyway, I hope you liked the fable, and I hope I read it okay for you. But anyway, if you would please, again, like and subscribe. It really helps, and I'd like to continue, doing more material of one sort or another. And the teaching stories are always fun for me to read, and I hope they imparted some knowledge and wisdom to you, because even though these stories were probably mostly written for children, there's a lot of wisdom in some of them, and so I think they're worth reading. But thank you very much for listening to me. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again, hopefully. Thank you.